coming up with it? Like, what's the deal, dude?
I'm trying to get the inside joke
Now
there.
I'm not so sorry I missed that event.
Alec promised that he would uh, nude dance with you during your rave, and
Oh,
I
that's
and I don't think you were aware of it, but that was the deal. He lost some kind of bet. I can't remember what it was, but
we charge a lot of money for that, Cal. That's a premium service there that
yeah.
Alec and I perform um, with our boy Tatum, Channing Tatum. Yeah.
Please don't
Welcome
post that
everybody.
on our platform, Mike.
Hey, we're live with the great Cal Washington. I'm going to go ahead and hit record here. We sound good, everybody? Thumbs up.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool, Cal. Cal, I want to also invite you to Music in Sky this year if you can make it out. The law is going to play a major part in this year's event. It's going to be June 20th through the 24th in NorCal. Now that
Whereabouts?
In Mendocino County.
Mendocino.
It's a beautiful place with no cell service.
Oh.
Yeah. As we always like to do. And I believe our buddy Josh Del Sol, don't count me on this, but I think he's going to cruise again. He hasn't been to one in a couple years.
Say hi to Josh. I haven't talked to him in a long time.
He's been on the move. He moved to Idaho.
Yeah, he's in Idaho.
Oh, wow.
He's on the lake.
Amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Lake Pend Oreille.
Right by it, I think. I don't know if he's on it, but he's right by it. He sent me some videos of him.
I think
probably Sandpoint.
I think you can see the lake right from where he is. I'm not sure if he's lakefront, but he's right there. Definitely.
If he's lakefront, he's probably in Sagal, if not Sandpoint. Know the area very well.
Bear, you know all the areas very well. Okay.
Well, I had a little bit of my college life in Eastern Washington, and I debauched myself frequently on cruises on Coeur d'Alene Lake there, during my younger years.
Coeur d'Alene seems to be. Coeur d'Alene has a bit of infamy, that little town. So yeah, I hear a lot of stories about Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, great country, great folks. Except for all the Californians that are moving there.
I can only imagine that this is pre-social media, pre-phone, pre-internet. I think actually they sent ravens back then and pigeons for communication. But imagine the times they had then.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Are you referring to my generation?
Boom. You have a generation, Bear? I didn't really notice.
I think most of them are gone. Hey, no joke. I mean, we not to be morose here, but it is a strange time of life when every day you get a phone call with another one. Your peeps kind of made the journey, but we're still thriving and kicking here on our side.
Yeah. Okay. Every grad reunion, the list starts to switch. The names start to switch to the list. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, smoke signals. That was how they did it, Jay, back in the day.
Yeah, but we won't say what the smoke was.
You just, Cal, you beat me to the punchline there.
Up in it. Definitely up in it.
You can definitely imagine what the smoke was back in the 60s when I was in college.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit record. This has already been a lot of fun. It's going to be a good chat. Boom, we are back for another episode of Alfacast. I'm Mike Winter, and I'm here, as always, with the illustrious boomer, Dr. Bear Paul Lando, coming to you live and direct from the great state of Jefferson, where freedom still reigns supreme, here on the gorgeous azure waters of the Smith River, where the rain hasn't stopped for what it feels like months, but that's what we get in the lower Pacific Northwest, and we're not complaining because it is lush and flowing. And I know, Bear, you said you had to do some deep Wim Hofing a couple days ago.
Oh yeah, it was intense. My water pump kind of washed away, and I had to literally submerge into just raging river. You know what it's like right now, and man, it's beyond Wim Hof cold. But I braved it out. And I thought Deb was going to have to go down to the river mouth of the ocean and pick me up, about 30 miles away there.
That's amazing. Just you and the steelhead kicking it down in there.
In the steelhead. And huge fish are breaching right now. It's incredible.
Steelhead?
Oh, yeah.
Steelhead salmon. Yeah.
Smith River has one of the, well, it's like one of the only in California for sure, like thriving wild steelhead rivers, because we are undammed and we don't have any farm fisheries anymore, any hatcheries. And so it's all wild, and it's really fun. That's my favorite fish to catch, even though over the last few years I haven't been doing it because I've got like a moral qualm around torturing fish that I can't eat because they don't let you keep them. But when I say they, I mean
we live remote, away from all interlopers that would tell us that we can't eat the fish out of our own front yard. So we don't need no stinking licenses. And if you want to get out there and catch some fish, you better hurry, because my bear neighbors are beating you to it. When I go down the river, every time the shoreline is strewn with fish carcasses from the bear, right? So they're having a ball.
They're having a blast. Yeah. Well, we're here today with Cal Washington. Very exciting. I just invited Cal to come out to Music and Sky. If you haven't heard, we announced it June 20th through the 24th in Mendocino County. It's going to be a blast, a huge village of sorts we're creating. The tickets will be dropping very shortly. You can sign up for volunteer shifts for discounts. And we want to make this, we're making this as affordable for everybody. This is our full family camp out. Lando will be one of the keynote speakers. He was supposed to be last year and couldn't make it due to fires. So that is going to happen this year because it's in June. And also we are commanding the elementals to not bring fire to us, even if the synthetic evildoers try to use their technology. We are more powerful than that, and we will deny them that opportunity this year, Bear.
So be it.
So be it.
Right on.
So Cal Washington with us today, CEO of InPower. He's returning to Alfacast to share his continuing journey traversing the legal commercial theater, securing life, liberty, and property for all through accountability. There is a growing concern over 5G technologies, quote unquote, smart meters, dumb meters, make you dumb meters, geo-engineering, and coercive medical practices that carry tangible risks affecting our health and safety for the sake of profit and control. Whereas petitions, protests, attending public hearings, and costly class action lawsuits has had little to no effect, the InPower Notice of Liability is definitely getting the attention of bureaucratic interlopers with demonstrable success. Cal will give us the ins and outs of how to commence the Notice of Liability, applicable situations for its use, and contrasting it with other legal processes. Most important is the support afforded to members of the culturally, governmentally, and geographically diverse InPower community that shares a common bond, the need to have authority over one's health and home. Regardless of where you live in the world today, people have fewer choices when it comes to certain technology and services, and often have no choices when it comes to medical interventions with no recourse for bodily harm. Above all, we'll highlight the fact that this is indeed a spiritual journey toward the realization that we have choice in all matters of our life, while our Creator is the only true, quote-unquote, authority. Lando, take it away, my friend.
Thank you. And if you'll indulge me in a smart meter story very quick, in my prior farm experience before we moved up here, we were half on the grid on that farm down there. And I came home one day and there was a truck with a couple guys putting a smart meter on the side of the barn. And I actually had a notice up, with my old analog meter, like, don't you dare. And so I caught him in the act, and I just drove in and then chain linked the gate behind me so they couldn't get out, and I wouldn't let them leave until they took it off. The supervisor, who is a driver, promptly rolled up his windows and locked all the doors and sent his young assistant out there to change the meter because he knew I meant business and I wouldn't let him go until they took it away. They did. And, I lucked out because I caught him in the act. But, you don't have to take anything from these folks. So anyway, Cal, first, Cal, I want to start off by, and I sincerely mean this, by just saying thank you because, what you are doing is making such a huge difference, and your efforts and just your commitment to the rest of us to find solution, out of these times we're in. It really, means a lot to me. And I shared with you the last time we talked that, we started poking the bear back in the 70s, just a handful of us. And a lot of us paid dearly, myself included, went through some pretty intense times, but we had to test the waters and see if some things we thought were actually true. And now, for me to just go on the internet and see your website up there with these technologies and communities of people that are not just understanding what we understood back then, but have taken it, several levels beyond, so that, it really touches me, and I thank you. So, and also thank you for being with us today. And what we're going to talk about is notice of liability, holding the creature class accountable for their actions. Kind of like what my dad used to say to me when I was growing up, think about your actions. So we're making them think about their actions, and it's awesome. So I'll leave this a little bit open, and maybe you can start off by just telling us, what you're up to, and, kind of segue more into details about it from there on, because this is also something that my community, our Alfa Vedic community, is very, very much enthused here. So thanks again, Cal.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for the thanks, and thanks for the eloquent introduction. Can I get a copy of that?
It'll cost you.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's not just me. I want to make that clear. Like, there's a very talented group who are behind this as well. Like, it looks like it's me, but it's not. So I just want to make that clear that there's a lot of other people involved, and they're very, very skilled in what they do. And they've offered their time and their talents to make this thing happen, because it's a huge undertaking. And so there are other people that you don't really see them too much, but they're there, and we wouldn't be anywhere without that. So just want to make that clear. And yeah, I think the last time I was on here, we were still we're about to launch, or we're hoping to launch at some point in time, and all these setbacks and everything. Well, we've been launched for over a year, and the documents started going out, and people started stepping down. So, and it seems to be increasing. We had a lot of members come in because they're interested in what we're doing, but there still was a little bit of hesitation on actually sending the documents. So we had a relatively low percentage of people actually engaged. A lot of people are coming in and learning and interacting, and which is all good. But so we wanted to help people get over that hump, and so we came up with the idea of a wave where we kind of help people through together, where they're all kind of doing it at the same time. Not, they're all over the world, but there's a little bit of you feel a little bit more safe when others are doing it with you, right? So we did one wave just for Australia and New Zealand. That was the first one. We learned from that. Then we did a test one just before Christmas, and we're about to do our next one at the end of this month, which is where we're really pushing it, and we're going to keep pushing until the dam breaks. This is it. Like, we're going for it.
Fantastic. So maybe for the folks that aren't yet aware, I guess maybe we'll just go right into the main technology, which is notice of liability, and maybe explain a little bit what that means.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a number one, notice, and that's a very important word in multiple jurisdictions. So that's that key number one, it is a notice. And so somebody has to pay attention to a notice. You're saying, notice this, or something might happen to you. So you're giving notice. So it's a notice of liability. In other words, the notice, if you don't pay attention to this notice, you may be held liable. So you should probably pay attention. So that's the premise of it. Then we're doing
It's kind of like the letters that we get from them. Sorry to interrupt.
it's exactly the same thing. It's available to us too, through the common law, through commerce, and through spiritual law. You can settle with your brother on the way, like it's a biblical principle. So it's that's what it is, and we're doing it on 4 major things, which Mike brought up during the eloquent intro. It's smart meters, 5G, vaccinations, and the spraying in the air. And what we found, I found this on the smart meters initially, because that's where we started, because Josh came and asked me if there was something I could do to counter it, because he was explaining the problem, but there was no solution. And so I looked at what they were doing and I went, oh, they're giving notice and they're using tacit agreement, because you're not saying anything. Okay, you've agreed. So I could see what they were doing. I was, adept at that. So I went, all we have to do is switch that around and say, we will agree if you can prove that they're safe. And so that's the premise of it. Things spread. Now we're into 5G vaccinations and the spraying in the air. And these are all commercially done. You'll notice during COVID, that's where it really focused. Vaccines have been going on for a while, but you can see that nobody was forced to do it. They were coerced and maybe threatened and all that, but you still had to voluntarily take it. Like, you had to make that choice. And so they're using that same thing. It's all commercial. And you notice that they used ads on TV and all kinds of commercial processes to sell the idea of this thing, and even sell the idea of the disease that it was supposed to be getting rid of. So it's all commercial, but they are weapons being deployed commercially. So we have them, in their cleverness, we can flip this around like an Aikido move and say, we will accept your offer if you can prove it's safe. You can never prove a weapon is safe because it's designed to kill, steal, or destroy. And so, and if you can't prove that it's safe and you still deploy them in my vicinity, and my vicinity is quite large, which we'll get into, but and my influence and my dependents are quite large. So if you are in their vicinity or my vicinity and you keep deploying this stuff, I'm going to charge you $20,000 a day, or whatever fee you want. Do we have a deal? So it's just straight commerce. If you don't answer this, then you have agreed, because that's exactly what they had just done to us on the very same contract. So that's the premise of it. It's like an Aikido move, or feeding the snake its own tail, that kind of idea, and creating that default situation.
Amazing. So, of course, the way they perpetuate this is they have these actors that are acting on behalf of the beast, and they feel like they have immunity and they can get away with anything to, in order to preserve their own pension plan with the agency. So are you guys going after people, or let's just say noticing people, I should say, in their personal capacity?
We do both. We do both.
Okay.
We catch them in both.
Yeah,
so
if you could explain that.
Yeah, so it would be just for instance, Joe Biden, the man, acting as the president of the United States. And so it's both that position. So if Joe Biden leaves the position, the notice stays with the position, and the next person inherits it. And it also follows Joe Biden into wherever he goes as well, even if he goes into private life, because it follows him
So is that kind of a notice to agent equals notice to principal concept?
Yeah, that's partly it. It's what that does is send it further up the chain to people that are hard to ascertain who they are. As you get up the pyramid, the players at the top levels are really hard to know who they are. Some of them you can tell, but a lot of them you don't. They're very hidden, and they're in control. So all of that liability goes up the chain to that. So even if this person doesn't have enough money to cover the liability, principal, all the way up to the all-seeing eye at the top of the dollar bill there. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I can see how that could be very effective if you're maybe holding a doctor liable that is, claiming the authority to say you have to do this or whatever. So what do we do when you've got like the U.S. Air Force up in the sky spraying us like bugs?
We have just, it's not so much military, it's a lot of it's private. The military is doing some, but we have just for safety's sake of our claimants, because not everybody's up to speed on how to deal with the world as it is. We're trying to keep them protecting. So we're saying no military, no police, no judges. Don't send to anybody with, basically anybody with guns. We don't want anybody getting in more trouble than they can handle, and we wouldn't be able to handle because of the just the geography, being able to handle court cases here and there and all kinds of stuff. So we draw a line there. Not that like what you're saying is valid, but we just want to keep our people safe.
Yeah. And I say that just to, insinuate that there's such large operations going on. And so maybe the game plan is to just act locally. And if everybody did the same in their various communities, then it's going to have a collective effect.
Exactly. That's the goal here. It's like a dam, and we're putting little chinks in it. Everybody's doing their little chink, and eventually this thing will breach, and that's the end of it. It'll collapse.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that already starting to happen. So, can you share with us any, stories as far as success and or otherwise, just the kind of reactions you're getting from these folks that you're noticing?
Well, the reactions that we're getting mostly is they're fiddling with the mail. They're trying to dodge the mail, which so the mail's actually, in most cases is going through, but they're fiddling with it on the computer end, so we don't get confirmation of it. And this tells you something, because if this document was worthless, you would just accept it, read it, and just put it in the recycling. But they're not. They're trying to dodge it, which tells you they believe it's real, at least. So, and these people are usually in CEO type positions. They're educated. They're influential. In some cases, they're government agents, and so they're doing that. And then we've had a couple. One incident in Belgium and one here, actually, our notary, where they threaten the notaries to stop signing it, which they can't do because the notary is allowed to sign, attest to any signature. It's lawful, but so they've gone that far. What we've seen is people stepping down from these positions, CEOs of utilities, heads of utility commissions. We've had 3 premiers in Australia, and a previous prime minister just stepped down last week. He wasn't prime minister at the time, but he was prime minister during COVID. He's mysteriously stepping down. Lieutenant governor in Ontario, politicians all across Canada, numerous CEOs in Denmark, and then the Queen of Denmark on New Year's Eve abdicated the throne. These people all got documents.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Notaries are very, very important. And also county recorders, people like that. I was in a situation where a state actor tried to insinuate an assessment of a type, and I pointed out to the agency and to the agent that they didn't have the ability to do that. It wasn't within their realm of capabilities. And of course, they do it anyway. But the way they get around it and make it quasi-legal is they have the county recorder lodge it. and then they let it cure for 30 days, and then they come back and then get a certified copy of the recording from the recorder, and then they say, oh, that's proof. And so I had a little skirmish that was kind of fun, and I succeeded. I actually served the county recorder and put an extreme amount of pressure on her, and she knew that she was, in hot water, and her husband was going to lose his yellow and purple Skidoo parked in the garage, including the garage. And so she withdrew the recording, and then the agency itself went away because they didn't have any teeth to do their little scam. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of a whole different matter, but it does kind of illustrate that there are ways that you can hold these people to the fire.
That's exactly what you just described is exactly what we're doing on a large scale. And we have the 4 agendas that we call them that are weapons that are the subject matter of that. And that's the problem. In their cleverness of deploying weapons of our demise and getting our agreement to it, it opened up that door where we can now flip that around. So this isn't standing armies coming through with tanks and everything. You can't give notices of liability to a situation like that. It's just not going to work. They're just going to arrest you or shoot you, right? So none of that would work. But because they're trying to do this clever way of going to the next war to reduce the population, we have the ability to actually counter it because it's all in commerce. So that's exactly what you did. They did a process similar where had you understood that claim that when they cured something for 30 days, you could have come in and rebutted it at that time, but you didn't. So then it stood, but then you came afterwards and it still worked. So this is exactly what we're doing. They're making claims and they're putting out offers, and we're not responding. So we're just teaching people how to respond and put them on the poopy end of the stick.
Yeah. It's a game of hot potato is really what we're doing here.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. It's Aikido. It's taking what their action, their motion, their aggressiveness, and doing a quick move, and their own actions make them stumble and fall.
Right. And it's also a numbers game, again, way back when we were first starting to test the waters, there was a few of us, so they could easily isolate us. And of course, we didn't know as much back then as you all know now. So we were a little vulnerable in a lot of ways. But now, your community, which is what I love to see, it's a real community. And of course, it's growing in numbers. And that's what freaks them out the most is, if the peons actually start to get smart.
Exactly. It's and the community is a culture. It has its own personality, and we're doing it with purpose, not any kind of weird coercion, but we understand that the group mind has to be a certain way. Right now, the group mind is, oh, wear a mask and run around and get shots, right? So we're creating a different group mind that will that can move into a new era and function properly. That it won't be perfect, but it'll be way better than the system we have now. So we are conscious of creating that culture. The culture itself abhors anything that doesn't fit. So when people come in and start doing, making nasty comments or whatever, it doesn't go. It doesn't take off. People are just like, no, we don't really do that here. And then the person kind of slinks away because they're not getting what they normally would get is that, that interaction with that. So the culture abhors the anything that's not the culture.
Well, the culture understands that in law and contract law, which we're talking about here, essentially equity is you must be in honor. So otherwise you're seen as a belligerent child. And so when you're in honor, you're in peace. That's what I love about the law and going into the private is you're waving the flag of neutrality. because you understand the law is for all of us. It's to protect us all. It is inherent to the moral standards of the creator. And so it's rational, it's universal. It is not based on your emotions from your senses. It's literally immutable. And when the culture of InPower, and same with Alfa Vedic and Music in Skies, people are getting this. And when you're around those people, man, it's fun because everyone's super respectful of each other, but they're also not cowering. They're not in fear. They understand that it's all about equity, right? And it's funny when we say equity, maybe some people, and we might want to define that, Bear and Cal, because when we say equity, of course, the Weffers, the mother Weffers, the left, and everyone has hijacked that term in this sort of new woke idea of equality, or debasing the real what actual equity is. But I think it would be good for people to understand that. And we're going to be doing more shows on equity because it supersedes common law, right? It is the sort of what is the baseline for all what we're talking about here. Cal or Bear, either one of you, would you like to give a definition of what actual equity and law means?
Cal, take it away.
Well,
If you care.
to me, yeah, to me, I don't really buy into that equity is the thing, because that's in a statute. That's where people go. And so I'm like, well, just because a statute says it doesn't make it so. But equity is important. In my opinion, from what I've seen of law merchant, which is and then biblical principles, equity is a mirror. They're all saying the same thing in a different way. Really, that's what it comes down to. But all parties should be whole in any kind of dispute or any kind of transaction. That's, boiling it right down. There should not be anybody taking advantage of anybody else, and nobody should feel any kind of loss in any way. That's simple equity.
Yeah.
And to summer, go ahead, Mike.
No, you go ahead, sir.
No, I was just going to say, to summarize, the community culture that you speak on is really about going to peace. And I'm the first one to say I get frustrated as heck with these creatures, and but and I learned the hard way that you can't go into this angry, because that's kind of my default mechanism, especially back in my younger years. But and that's okay. There's other ways to deal with that. I go hit the heavy bag or something and take it out on that. But when it comes to your process, it's really about going to peace, because you can't come into peace if you're not into peace yourself. And any comments? But the next thing,
can I just say one thing on
yeah, Mike, there? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, equity, I've been doing a lot of thinking on this, is it's self-ownership. It's what the creator, or what ourselves as the divine creator related to that source has given ourselves. And it's the only thing we own is our inner self, is our inner knowing. We don't own anything else. We have possessions. We don't actually own those. So and that's true for everybody. So some other corporation, which whether it's a government claiming power as a corporation, or these Verizon and AT&T or whatever, these other corporations that are claiming ownership of the sky, they can't do that, because that is against the internal laws of equity. So all we have to do is notice them on that. Right. And when we do that, we basically, it's like this, essentially that goes to the non-aggression principle as well. You are trespassing against me by assuming ownership of creation, of nature, which you cannot own.
No. And on page 1 of the Bible, it says we have the dominant position. We have dominion over the land, air, and sea. So that's the contract, so we have that in our document, and so that's ours. Like, sorry, you cannot do that. That's we're the stewards of that. Going with what Mike said, we don't own it, but we have the dominant position. We say what goes in the sky, and it's not that stuff that you're spraying. We don't want it anymore. We don't want this this unsafe technology. Technology is great, because it's made life convenient, but not at the risk of harming our bodies or our spirits, or anything, anything to do with us, or the substrate itself, the planet. And so we have to change this. And we're the ones that have to do it. We have to come forward with that claim, just like Bear said. They put that little thing out there. They're spraying in the air. Anybody saying anything? Oh, they're going to and doing a class action lawsuit. Oh, okay. Well, that's our judge in there, right? You know that, right? Oh, well, you don't know that. Okay, well, that's your problem.
Oh yeah, it's
You're
it's
not.
what
We're
we're seeing
not
in New
doing it right.
Hampshire.
So they let us do all these things, and knowing that it's not going to go anywhere. So we have to rise above and figure out who we are in this reality bubble, whatever this earth is, no matter what shape it is, and take that position, take our claim, and state it very clearly. And the reality will change if we do that. Like God is on the side, but he needs that claim to come forward. He cannot just supersede this. He has the ability to do it, but he's bound himself. So this is the thing. We have to understand that, and we have to unbind him, if you want to put it that way. And we can do this.
The point of being here is to have purpose. And when you have purpose, you do work. And if we do not do the work, then we get what is coming to us.
Exactly. By default, it's all by default. It's all by them making a claim, and we don't come and rebut it. It's that simple. It's complex, but that's the simplicity of it. As soon as we do it, and the real dominant steward comes forward, they have to stand down. They have to. We're just not doing it. And so we're doing it every other way, and they've taught us all these ways, but they're all inside that box. We're not dealing with it at the core level. And so InPower is a way of helping people to understand that and come from wherever they are, because you can't be in a wrong spot, and just keep understanding more and more so you can figure out who you are.
And it was very encouraging. Go ahead.
Yeah, anger is actually a good transition emotion, Bear. So you don't want to stay in anger. That's just going to eat you up. But it will move you out of fear. If you're angry, fear disappears. Like, fear is absolutely debilitating. So you don't want to stay in fear. You got to move. You got to take some action or something to leapfrog you out of that and into the more positive, peaceful, loving, emotions.
Agreed.
But anger is a place that gets you out of that.
Yeah, sometimes getting pissed off a little bit, gets you moving, gets you, awake. And I see a lot of people in every country now going through that transition at the moment, because they're starting to figure out what's going on, which brings me to just the next point about InPower is you're very internationally situated. And the question with that is, since we're dealing with different governments geographically, I think I know the answer to this, but do the processes seem to conform universally to whatever jurisdiction people find themselves in?
Well, the agendas do, and that's why we stick to those four. The vaccines are identical here in Vancouver, as in California, as in Denmark, as in Hong Kong. The smart meters are identical everywhere. The 5G is so that's why we go with those, because that's not a variable. That just stays constant. So we don't have to deal with
the fact that it's a unilateral world corporations now we're dealing with.
That's what we say right at the beginning. The very first statement as to why we're doing this is there appears to be a worldwide agenda to deploy smart meters, or whatever the agenda is on your document. That's the
almost
premise.
like a conspiracy.
That's the premise. It looks, and we say it looks like. We don't say there is one. It looks like, appears to be. So you tell me it's not, and then we're good.
Yeah. So it's kind of
what I was going. Sorry, Mike. I think I might have a little bit more of a delay here with my modem today, so forgive me if I talk over any of you guys. But go ahead.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, my prior question was more about the bureaucracies in just different jurisdictions around the world. And so your process is you haven't found any exceptions anywhere in the world where the processes aren't applicable?
No.
Mhm.
And we haven't gone into every country, but we have a document being written for Hong Kong, Malaysia. Before, when we first started, it was just North America, and then it kind of morphed into the Commonwealth countries. You know, Australia kind of came on, and a little bit in UK, and then some people in the EU wanted to do it, and I went, oh, now we got to switch to civil law, right? Because there's a whole other. So we had to do a
Right.
lot of work. But once you do that work, you can repeat it. So each
Mhm.
country, we have to go through their constitutional laws, their statutes, and everything, and get what is applicable. But then once you do one, like with smart meter, all of those laws work for vaccines. Basically, you know, you might have to make a couple changes. So once you do one, it's kind of cookie cutter, but there is still a lot of
Mhm.
work. But we try and streamline it, and the four agendas is what really helps because we're never having to deal with some other thing, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah, I get a
explaining
lot of
some other thing.
questions. I get a lot of questions from our Canadian friends, and I just say, "Hey, I don't live in the Northern Colonies, so I've never done any process up there." So, I say, "I don't know. All I know is, what I've done in the Southern Colonies."
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah,
are you
so there's
saying
just a
that?
little bit of a learning curve, but fortunately, we've got people like yourself that are kind of paving the way for folks in different jurisdictions.
Yeah, and there's others. It's not just me, and it's not even just InPower. The members themselves some come with
Mhm.
knowledge of their area or even their area of expertise. And so there's a lot of more information going on than just the notice of liability. And people are learning from each other and being encouraged by others' experiences. Because if you don't know what somebody's doing, a lady in Halifax got a debt zeroed out. Well, you would never hear
Mhm.
about that, but you're hearing about it now. It's like, oh, if she can do it, well, why can't I do it? So it's a good melting pot to get a lot of information, like real information, of people who are on the ground. And I've been asked. There was something going around the internet that the Chinese were in Stanley Park, which is a big park in the middle of my city, and and people, it's going around, and I'm like, there's nobody in Stanley Park. But I'm right here. I can go. No, if it was there, they can't hide in there. So it's not happening. And so
Mhm.
when I see stuff in the news or even on alternative news, I can go to one of our members who lives there. No, it's not happening. It's more like this. I was just there, that kind of thing. You have real people that you know and trust on the ground in all these places. It's
Mhm.
kind of cool.
So it seems like the tide is really shifting up in Canada there pretty strong now, right?
Yeah, it's shifting everywhere in the world though. Like it really is.
Mhm.
It is coming apart.
Mhm.
So what you're I want to get a little deeper into the process, and maybe we could even use my current situation as an example to help educate folks who are like, what are they talking about in terms of noticing? First
There's
and
no help for you in your situation, Mike.
man, beyond help. Um, but that being said, I know and guys, it might be good too if you haven't listened to the first Alfacast we did with Cal a few years ago to give a little bit more of the sort of ground information on the notice process. But just to kind of review that again, what we're talking about, one is there's a management class, a managerial class that is really the ones that are allowing the evil to continue, or quote unquote evil, because they are just putting forth these practices against our without us noticing in them, right? As you were saying, tacit acceptance. So what we're doing is we're first going to them, right? The managerial class, the ones that are actually putting forth whether they the CEOs or CFOs or people in these corporations, but then also we're
The people
noticing.
you used to hate in high school.
And then that is, and essentially by doing that, we are putting them on notice. And is that now a conditional acceptance?
Yep.
A conditional acceptance. and then really what we are also using commerce because we are billing them for this time, right? And so we're really hitting them where it hurts, where they really care about most, which is their pocketbook. Is that correct, Hal?
That's exactly what it is. All the agendas, all four of those agendas, and any bad thing that anybody can think of that's happening in the world, money is involved with it. Like there is nothing bad happening where money isn't the root of it or the catalyst that make it happen.
And ironically, that quote unquote money is just a debt instrument that is literally collateralized by us, by our straw man.
Exactly. And it's represented by a piece of paper with ink on it. So that said, once you understand law merchant, like the ancient law merchant and some of the things that we teach, you will start to understand that that bill that we are sending them on that daily fee is money. And everybody goes, well, how are you going to collect? You don't have to collect. They're not collecting. Most of the debt instruments in the world are not collectible, but they're still assets in all this mess. It's a debt-based.
It's like a Ponzi in a way, but it's a never-ending debt system that's based on ignorance.
Exactly. So what we're doing is stop being ignorant. Here's how it works. I'm not saying I agree with it, but here's how it works. You send him a bill, the bill is the money. Oh.
Yep.
So with that in mind, we've been open for just over a year, and the first documents kind of went out about a year ago, January, and we hit $1 billion in September, just around the time I saw you in Florida. We hit the next $1 billion towards the end of November, and we hit the next $1 billion just like this past week.
Wow.
So we're up to $3 billion in bills.
And I think if we do this right, it will go exponential.
Yes, it will. And that is all money according to their statutes, laws, law merchant. Like they cannot refute it.
And, just a little point that I know we all get, but it's worth mentioning, is that if somebody makes an offer to you and presents a bill, if they created the bill, they own it unless they can get you to accept it, correct?
Yes.
And in other words, they own the liability, so they really have to get you to accept it. Otherwise, it's back in their lap.
But once you read the Bills of Exchange Act and go way back, because none of this was written down, all the law merchant. It was all merchant class. You got to understand that.
Yeah.
They were a caste section, like nobles, knights, clergy, royals. There was the class of merchants, and they were all wink, 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 nudge, nudge. I'm going to write you this thing that you're going to pay me, and we're going to put it out there as money, and people are going to treat it as money because we look really rich, but nobody's coming to collect. They weren't really collecting on these things. So they were able to do this amongst their class, and that's how they ended up being rich. Because if you put out a piece of paper and pay for a beaver pelt, just 5 shillings, take the beaver pelt, send it to London, turn it into a jacket, and then you get silver for it, and you just keep doing that, you're gonna have a lot of silver and have not paid out anything. And the bills of exchange they were putting out here in Canada with the Hudson Bay Company, how to collect, you had to walk, because there's no cars, to the Hudson Bay, a fort on the west side of the Hudson Bay. And there they would take the piece of paper that said £1 or 5 shillings or whatever it was, turn it into a bill of exchange. Then you had to take that bill of exchange to London, England, and present it there. And then they had 60 days to actually come up with the silver. So how many of these pieces of paper do you ever think got paid? And yet beaver pelts were going out of here, and all diamonds and whatever. All the resources were going out on paper, and they were paying for it with paper. They have just taken they took that little scam and turned it into a worldwide scam with the whole banks and the whole, it's all the same thing.
So it almost sounds like we still have a caste system worldwide.
Yeah, except here's the problem.
Mhm.
They were so greedy. Well, how can we make this more? Well, let's turn everybody into merchants and then we'll get them signing pieces of paper and we'll keep it all. So in their stupidity, they turned us all into merchants. That's the birth certificate name. It happened right around right after the Depression. They took the money off gold. Okay, we're gonna have all these people printing all this money for us, and now we can turn it around on them. And there's nothing they
Oh,
can.
I never
Well,
thought of
there's
it that angle that we are all the new merchant class because of that. Yeah, brilliant. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was just going to say, I thought in the other idea is that we are the beneficiary with that straw man. And also our natural name is the grantor. And then they're supposed to just be our trustee. That in their, this is in their twisted head, right? And that, but we're supposed to be the beneficiary, and in exchange of the rights, we get these services and benefits and all that. But yeah, that is interesting. We're all the merchants. And of course, in 1933 in the US, we were made incapable of paying debts because they took all the gold away.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So think about that. Like, go back to the story where the merchants were all like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm never going to come and collect from you. They just took it to a whole other level. But they had to actually remove the gold. Otherwise, if we ever did catch on, somebody's got to come up with this gold. So they just went, yep, no gold. We're just pass paper around. But it all funnels towards the banks and towards the banking families, all up to the top of the
Yeah.
pyramid.
So, Cal, here in the States, the way they got themselves a get out of jail free card when they took the gold away, they passed House Joint Resolution 192. Are you aware of that one?
Yep.
Yeah, which basically put us into a prepaid account because they had to do that if they took away our means and subjected us to a monopoly species of money. Then that's basically trafficking in slaves. So, but then quickly they came up with the birth certificate and contracted us. But we still live in a prepaid status, if at least here in the States. I don't know if it's different up here
No, same.
in
It's the same.
Canada. But you have to know there's something to revert to.
Yeah, they took the money off gold here, like actually 2 months before HJR 192. They did it with what's called an order in council. So it happened in April here, and it happened in June in 1933. And it's everywhere. Like there is no, there's a few places that started to put their money back on gold, and then like JFK started it, and Gaddafi started it, and you start to see the picture here. All the
Yeah.
axis of evil are all the people who aren't on the central, all the countries aren't on the central banking system. They don't like it. They want full control of the money system. So they can't have any rogues out there. Well, they can do whatever to a country, but they can't get all us people in every country, and we're all just like in houses, and like they can't blow up Building 7 to get rid of all the bills.
Probably though, why they want to eradicate a lot of population, because true inflation is population, because with each new birth certificate, it's inflating the supply.
Well, it's part of the problem is they are constantly hoarding the money. So as new people come in, you have to create new debt. Like, okay, you can only come up with so many ways to create debt, and it just starts to balloon out, and then it has to correct, or they have to correct it. And so it's a flawed system. It's designed, well, it's not by design. It's designed by greed, but it cannot continue. Like it can't continue perpetually. It's based on debt. So you have to create all these different ways of creating debt. So as what they do is like, as far as you're the beneficiary of the trust, they create these things called statutes. And if you drive 1 mile an hour past this number, then we're going to give you a ticket. And they pull that out because that's to your benefit. Yeah. Oh, you got this ticket. Okay. Well. So they create all these things where you're somehow indebted so that they can steal from your trust account because they're the trustee. So it's just a big scam. And once you see it, it's a house of cards, and we can create a herd of elephants that just knocks it down, man. It's fragile.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the fragility is mostly related to the fact that on day one they went against natural law, they went against God, so they seed their own sowed their own seeds of destruction right from the get go.
They did. They
You
could.
know, now if we could get back to your notice of liability a little bit, you know, a lot of people. You know, I've shared a lot of technologies and things along the way with people. And the first question I always get is, well, am I going to get in trouble for doing something like this?
Could I actually go and ask, like, let's say I'm the guy, right? Let's go through this might be a good practice to tie into what Bear's saying. So
Perfect.
I've spoken about this in public, but you know, we live in this gorgeous natural wilderness area, right? In a tiny town. And what I loved about here when I moved here is there's like no cell service because there's no cell towers. And you feel it. You feel amazing here. And at the farm, especially, because they don't even have any electricity around 25 miles from the closest electrical grid. But here, so I found out by literally running up the mountain here, that I noticed that there's an individual who owns some property up in the mountain here who was able to purchase it. I don't know how. There were some areas where they could buy, because most of this is actual national forest land. And they were had a bunch of bulldozers bulldozing down the second growth beautiful firs and you know, old growth forests. So what is going on here? And I found out asking a neighbor that this guy actually sold out to a local not local, huge multinational telecom company, Verizon, to put a cell tower in, of all things. And my neurology got shocked, right? I went right into like anger and fear, and I want to just blow this thing up. It's like, even considering like dynamite. But you know, and that's that good anger you have. So I actually went to peace and realized, well, one, I'm going to get as much organized around this as I can, and that sort of technology. But two, I want to go into process. I want to go into some lawful process. And actually, I reached out to Josh Del Sol, or he saw my post on Instagram and said, you got to hit up Cal and do InPower. This is what InPower is built for. So now here I am. I'm ready to sign up for InPower. Could you walk us through, Cal, like, what am I going to go through in terms of the actual process through using InPower and what's the ultimate sort of path I'm going to take to notice this person? And I got to find out even who this person is. They're kind of anonymous. They don't live in our neighborhood. I believe they live down in the town and own this property. But yeah, you want to give us a little 411 on how that process works.
Yeah. So first you have to join. You have to be a member. It's a private. It's actually a church, and then InPower is a integrated auxiliary as far as the government of the United States is concerned. That's how they view us. But we're really a church protected by the U.S. Constitution, so we're immune to all laws. So there's a protection by joining, and then everything's in the private. So we're not doing anything in the public. I mean, I speak, but there's nothing being said or done. So in your case, you can go to land titles and find that who owns it. That's pretty simple. And then, so as you come in, you will be picking probably the 5G NOL because it's a cell tower. You will have to find your respondents, who you're going to send to. So there'll be 4 of them. I would send to probably the property owner, possibly, because it looks like he just did this for this reason. So there's an intent. And
I do know some backstory of a neighbor who spoke with this gentleman and said that he was just like, oh, they offered to put in, because this is going to be like a retirement home he's putting up there, which is sad. He's decided to put his home next.
He's going to have a very short retirement.
And the utility has agreed to pay for all his infrastructure. You know, they're going to put in all his electric lines and his sewer and all that. So it's like, in exchange for that, I'll just throw up a tower. It's for him. He thinks this is doing the town a service because it's providing us with telecommunications, which we didn't have before.
Well, I will tell you, Mike, that a lot of people are going to see it that way. Just so you know, you might be, the one fish swimming the opposite direction. So because a lot of people are going to want the self-service, especially among the younger generation, so they're going to think this is a good thing. So, but that said, so you would find your respondents. You have to submit them to us so that we vet them for you. There's a vetting process, and that again is to keep everybody safe and make sure they're not getting out there on the edge. We've been through all this. So then your respondents in a database. So now we're tracking everything. We're tracking their address, their name, how much they've been billed. Like everything starts to
Wow.
yeah. So it starts to become a thing. And so once they're vetted, when you're ready to do this, you need 2 witnesses. Anybody over 18, you can be your wife and your kids or whatever, and then you need a notary because there's an affidavit. So you get your mail stamps, book your notary thing, have your witnesses come down, sign it, put it in the mail, and then you have to come back, say that you put it in the mail on your date. That date will becomes 15 days ahead of that date, becomes your new effective date of the whole process. So it's based on that action of the mail going to into the post office. So by the time you get to the 3rd round, you go and if they go into default, we go back to that date. That's the start date of the billing. So that's an important piece. Then you have to get proof of delivery from your post office because we don't want we're trying to keep everything on the up and up and being able to verify that these things have happened.
So you use certified mail.
Yep. And there's a different one now that they found because we've had
Registered.
no registered. You don't want to have a signature because that ends up causing more problems than it's solving.
So sorry, a signature on their end, or
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
You
we
don't
don't
want
want
anyone to sign.
No.
Can you explain that to me?
What happens is the person's not there, and then the mail carrier brings it back to the post office, and then sends a notice. Okay, you got to come down. And they just don't come down and get it, right? So it kind of,
which I've had happen to me, by the way.
yeah. So we want to avoid all these little tricks that these people are trying to dodge a mail. Make them less available. So I think it's called priority mail for you. There's 2 different ones. So
Cal, sorry to interrupt, but we started using also private couriers, as long as, you have a tracing number and so forth. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so we use the post office because the post office is a jurisdiction. It's ancient.
Right.
It's recognized everywhere in the world. There's a whole postal union and all that stuff. So it is a jurisdiction in and of itself. So we prefer
even if it's USPS and not the US Post Office.
Yeah, they're still operating under the post office. It's an agency. Think of it that way. So it's still It's
funny. I was going to bring up about Postmaster General, which I won't forget because I want to tag on a question on that. But okay.
Yeah, so people have used the Postmaster and gone all the way up to Washington D.C. and then all of a sudden, the poop starts running the other way.
Yeah.
So you get your proof of delivery on all 4 of your things, and then the next round opens up. So at that point, you have to give them 4. Yep, you have to give them 14 days in between. Yep. And which we push to 17 because there's always people who are Johnny on the spot and go right on the day, and then mail passes. So we put a buffer in there to slow that down. And then you move to the next round, and that's just repeat. Rinse, repeat. Get to notice a default. At that point, you are now in the billing rounds, and the bills start coming out. So there's a 30-day after your default. The thing will open up for you, and you start to bill.
And just for folks that don't know, and tell me if it's any different where you're at, but if you notarize it and go through the whole notice, give them an opportunity to cure, and then finally default, if they haven't made good, then it's a judgment in the private. And I would suggest to everybody that you want to keep your affairs private and not have to go to some public referee in order to settle affairs that all adults should be able to, settle themselves. So you've already won and don't even need to go into the public. Is that true?
No, exactly. So we don't want anybody going into court.
Mhm.
and we say it very clearly in the document itself. And it's already adjudicated by the administrative process in the private and in the public. You could go and get a judicial review, but the courts are corrupt, and you're going to have some skill in there to get that to happen. And we just don't want anybody touching the court. Like it's too
So the
many
first,
variables, too
yeah.
many, So like
And
stay
the
over
judge.
here
Mhm.
and just throw stuff out on the ship. Just throw paper out there. Stay over here on the dock. Is how we.
The proper role of a judge is to impartially witness, and so a notary is doing the same thing. So you could
Yes.
even like a notary as a judge in the private.
Yes. So we have notaries on the affidavit for sure, and you have the option to put it right on your process if you want. But
Mhm.
it starts to become costly. So it's not
Mhm.
necessarily, but it's a good idea to have it on your process. It definitely
So
adds to it.
yeah. So a question here. So the first notice is one asking for remedy, and it's an affidavit of facts, right? You're putting forth like why they're the damages or the trespassing, right, against you, I assume. Have you ever had any issues yet where they've responded with their own conditional acceptance or anything? No. Okay. I was
Well,
just
if
wondering
you
if you
stick
had
to a
anything in your
bona
back pocket for that.
if you
Well,
stick to a bona fide statement of facts and it's only facts, and if you're clever enough, the only way they can rebut it is by perjuring themselves, and they'll never do that.
no. And see, here's the beauty of it. Prove a weapon is safe. Prove to me a gun is safe. You can't. It's designed to send a bullet out the end of the barrel. It's like that's what it
Mhm.
does. It's never
Mhm.
going to be safe unless you pull it apart.
Yeah. I only bring that up because this is going back to Bear's question, can you get in trouble?
No.
Right? Is because I think that's where people have fear is like, oh, is this gonna, because people don't like conflict. People don't like having to, and that's what I think one of the services you're offering here is you're kind of helping ease people into the awareness of their power, right?
Yes.
Into the fact that the law is here to serve you, because as long as you are morally in the right and you are in awareness and sticking true to rightness and reason, then you're good. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Exactly. So what we found is nobody has come into any kind of trouble if they did the document as written, and those that thought they were clever enough to change it almost always got into some kind of trouble.
The only trouble I ever got into was because of my own mistakes.
Yeah.
But back then we had to go through that in order to learn. But the good news is this generation now hopefully has learned. And so you don't have to go through what we went through, which is why I love what you're doing, because it's just expediting, people right into the next level of knowledge without having to take any arrows.
Exactly, because I took all the arrows and did the jail time and got pepper
Mhm.
sprayed and all that stuff. So I made all those mistakes and learned
Mhm.
from it and went, okay. And then once I got to the place where the judges are running out of the room, I went, okay, I think might be there. And then just, and so it just became very clear. No, I'm there. And so then learn more, get more solid. And so the document is written with everything that I know, and it doesn't mean I know everything, but everything that I do know is in that document. Like everything that I experienced, every little trick I use, all their word magic against them, wording, all that stuff is in there, and those at the top can see it. They know exactly what's happening to them, and they know that there's no out because it's their thing. It's their own stuff. Like
Yeah.
we're defaulting them with their own stuff. Like they have to drink it.
So
And
I want to
if you
keep,
watch some of the meetings at Davos, and just recently, and listen to some of the talks that these elitists are, putting out there, they're freaked out. They
Yes, they
know
are.
they know they're in trouble.
They are.
so I just wanted to finish this then. So I'll just follow this to its conclusion, right? So now we're on the second notice. We're starting to bill for default. And then where do we go from there?
So the billing, just like I said, there's other people involved with this, and we had trouble with with the application the way it was, because we kind of hijacked something, not hijacked, we pay for it, but we pushed this application to its beyond its limits. It wasn't designed to have this octopus of options and and tracking everything. It really bogged down because it would have to pick information from the first document to get, and so it just became like so so the guys that are clever in all this, they created a loop so that it was quick. And so a happenstance of that is that we can bill continuously.
Mm.
And I went, billing continuously? That means we can bill all of the current wealth out of the earth. All of it. And I
Kinda
know
like
that
what they're
sounds
doing.
lofty, but I'm telling you, we can actually do this. We have the capability. We just need the numbers, and that's it.
Well, so
Love
the
it.
idea is, because I assume you're not really hearing anything with the second notice, like it's going to dead ears, right? So then you go to the third notice. So I'm just curious. I'm just going back to my example, like getting this. So eventually they're going to have to take notice, right? I mean,
They have to
obviously,
take.
because
They have to
the
take.
billing's getting crazy.
Yes, because the billing starts happening, and those that understand what a bill of exchange is know what's going on. There's a piece of paper with very large numbers on it, and their name is the debtor. They're the drawee. And that piece of paper is negotiable.
And so
Means it can get into anybody's hands at any time. And if it got in the hands of the IRS, they can collect.
yeah. So not only
The IRS, I was just going to say, when you know how to turn the tables, the IRS, we used to use the IRS to collect on our behalf.
I know.
And we actually succeeded a bunch of times.
I know.
I bet you do.
And I think other people that know more than me that we're sending to, they know this too. And that's why they're freaking out. And there was one guy in Australia, a premier, he had death threats, and the police said, you should probably move and go into protection. No, no, no. And he was being fast tracked to be the prime minister. Got these notices. Yeah, I'm going. See ya. Bye. Why? Tired. Sold his house, went dark. Wouldn't do that when he had death threats.
hopefully went light.
All I'm saying is he went like cut everything.
Woke up.
Yeah.
So
we're seeing a lot of people bug out in the last few years, bank CEOs, all those sorts of folks. So let me, sorry, Mike, I just want to ask one more question. Actually, it's a big subject. Do you see any value in individuals doing status corrections and all that sort of thing? Or
yeah, I think
necessary?
so. No, it's not necessary, not for our process. But it does get you over that inertia, that fear, and like it's just another way of like pushing, like testing, like you were talking, as you were earlier, earlier in your life. They get to push on the thing a little bit, and it's really, not much can happen there. So I recommend people do it because it does get you engaged, and then you start to feel, okay, that wasn't bad. Like I'm not bleeding. Yeah.
What I like about the process, it is, just more of a spiritual unfoldment, actually, because what you're doing is formally noticing that, no, I don't belong to you. And, then you learn a lot in the process, how the system works, and that you do have options. So whether it's absolutely necessary to prevail in, what we're talking about here, I think there's some value to it.
Yes.
People are asking me all the time. I'm like, well, tune in and see how it feels.
Yeah, I recommend people do it just for the experience and just to do it. And it's okay to be a merchant once you understand how it works.
Yeah. use the rights and use the benefits and privileges when you need to, play on the monopoly board when you want, and then know who you really are when you need to be off the monopoly board.
Yeah.
So have you guys had, just to kind of finalize on my scenario, obviously, so have you guys had success?
You really want to get rid of that cell tower, don't you, Mike?
Well, I think this is a wonderful example for that. This is actually a practical, real thing. We're leaving the world, we're leaving the realm of sort of philosophical, just pondering, and this is actually being used. So have you guys had towers that have been taken down or decommissioned through this process?
or moved somewhere else.
Okay.
But it's not 100%. But I don't want to blow smoke up anybody's rear end. It's not 100%. But there is an effect to this. So it's just really numbers and pushing on this thing till we collapse it. That's what we're doing. And so these little wins help you to feel like something's happening. So eventually it will be a colossal win, and it's just numbers. So yes, we have had meters change back. We've had towers canceled, towers moved to another location.
Well, especially in my case, because this gentleman will, if it gets to him, he'll see, well, I'm being billed all this. And the whole reason why I'm having this tower on here is because they want to cover they're going to cover some expenses for me to have some infrastructure built. This is starting to not make economic sense. Why? And someone's pretty upset about this in my neighborhood. Hopefully it doesn't go postal on me. But because the thing is, when you're doing this, you are stating your name and who you are in the record. So that's, I guess, one thing you have to be aware of is people in town. Like if you live in a small town like mine, people will be like, oh, there goes Mike again. He's a rebel rouser causing problems. But I have no problem standing up and explaining to them the health impact that they're going to have from this tower being right in our backyard versus put it on the top, at least if you really want to go put it on the top of the mountain, not literally in our backyard. But okay, well, that's great to know. I'm going to start it. And you did mention, Cal, that we're going to have a special discount link for our community, right? For this wave.
Yep.
So
I'm wondering if Bo, actually, I did email him to send it to you.
I have my email. I'll check my email, but either way, I bring that up because we'll put that in the show notes below, guys. So there'll be a special link here. I'll see if you sent it to me right now. Oh, wonderful. I just got an email from the California DMV. Anyways.
Are you going to get the new smart ID?
It never ends, huh?
So it's right here.
I need a driver's license because I don't drive commerce.
Here's the link right here. So it's https:// www.empowermovement.org.
I'll put it in the show notes right
Alfa
now.
Vedic. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So just go to empowermovement.org/Alfa Vedic. You'll get your discount. And yeah, let's get the big wave going because obviously I think a lot of people, the smart meters thing just blows. Bear educated me about my power and that. So when they were finally making that change here with Pacific Power, I just put up a no trespassing sign and I put a lock on the box and everything. And they just actually ended up calling me and I just opted in. I'm paying $20 extra a month for them to, and it's fine. It means I'm giving someone a job. They have the meter person come through and manually check it every month. I actually hook them up. I offer them coffee. I'm like, sweet, dude, come on my property. Take my meter reading. Bear doesn't have that problem because he doesn't have to contract with any utility.
Actually, my wife is a meter reader here. Whenever I leave the lights on too long, she busts me on it because it's draining the batteries.
The voice of reason.
I will bring this up. I think you may have a fifth category, Cal. A fifth category with Mr. Elon Musk talking about how Neuralink, their first trial has started, and now they're trying to interface technological stuff into the human body. That may be the next one to stop.
No, that's all in the 5G one. The 5G one, we call it 5G, but it's actually wireless radiation. So we get into all that stuff. When we were studying when we were actually writing the 5G NOL, we were studying all the technology, and we knew about the Internet of Bodies and all that stuff. And there was a few choices at that time of how they were going to do this. So there was different research on how to accomplish this, and one of them was vaccines. And while we're writing this document, COVID comes, and I went, there it is. Like the very day, like, they're going vaccine on the 5G thing. Within a year, vaccines were out. So we knew it was coming, but it's all connected.
And
all four of those agendas are connected. They're literally one thing. But to try and tell people that are new to this that this one thing, their head can't handle it. So there's people who really are passionate about vaccines, or people who are passionate about the smart meters, and people passionate about the spraying in the air, but they don't really know that it's all one big thing.
the beautiful thing is when they roll out the next pandemic, which they're trying to do right now, we're ready for them. I mean, there's just too many people that, number one, know better, and also too many people that are learning how to counter it with legal process. So wonderful.
Yeah, they went early, in my opinion, because as we were studying the 5G was the cornerstone of that. That's how they got people to fall like that. And
exactly.
yeah, but they didn't have enough of it up at the time, so they went early. And I think it had to do with a certain president that might have gotten in. So I think they went early.
So they weren't able to kill enough people quick enough with the 5G to blame it on the
No.
Yeah. Well, I think we have some pretty highfalutin folks behind the veil too that are on our side, which makes me more confident that evil shall not succeed.
Absolutely. And the document goes into that. It starts with that. It says this matter is before the watchers. And for those that understand that, this is being adjudicated outside of this realm, and that is a real thing. We couldn't, just go with that, because again, people would be like, that sounds nutty. So we go right down into statute law, even though there's no remedy there. A little bit of remedy in constitutional law, but then once you get into commerce, boom, the remedy's there because it's money, and they speak the word, they speak the language of money in all of these agendas. So it's all money driven.
Well, here in the States, there's no Article 3 courts. There's only commercial courts. That's why judges, as soon as patriots go in and start screaming about their constitutional rights, the judge just says, get out of here. It has nothing to do with anything. And they're actually 100% correct.
They are correct. And people think that the Constitution is gone. It's not gone. It's just not applicable in that business that is running a court service. That's how you got to look at it. It's like going and using the Constitution on the Judge Judy show. It doesn't apply there. It's a TV show, and that's what it is. And yeah, there's an adjudication, but the parties have to agree, and I imagine they have to sign a contract that thick. And you can't talk about that kind of stuff in there. Like that's not what it is.
Well, this whole thing's a TV show, and we've caught on. So
yeah. So they want to do the next reset. So the reset's coming. We need to take the opportunity, because we have the dominant position, to be in control on the other side of this reset. Because I can see it every 200 years, because before now, we say around the 1800s, that's when they put in the constitutional monarchies, which was just right after the American Revolution. So it kind of pacified people, because the vote came in and we had some kind of say, and it wasn't a monarchy, but they still had constitutional monarchies everywhere else, right? It's like, what is that? It's an oxymoron. And before that, it was monarchies, and like 200 years before that, and these massive corporations like the East India Trading Company and the Hudson Bay Company and the Virginia Company, Dutch Trading Company. they were running things as governments. Like they literally went into places and kind of controlled things
Well,
the way
the Dutch turned into the English trading company when there was a little intermarriage between royalty and the two, monarchies, and then it came to the States, and yeah, it's just all the same folks.
Yeah, and the whole tea thing that's the East India Trading Company.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it was. They like you can't come in here and have a monopoly and oh yes we can because we got this document from the king. So it started that, and I think I'm not sure if the American Revolution was on purpose but it did change everything because then they saw the model. Okay, they're kind of pacified if they have this vote thing, right? And everybody settled down. So that's what they instituted here in Canada and everywhere else because people were shooting at the Hudson Bay Company.
Yeah. It's kind of like here in the States, the MAGA movement, I behind it as far as it's instilling kind of the old spirit in people and take the country back, make America great again and everything. On the other hand, I know darn well we're still fighting about who we're going to put in or install for the next corporate CEO. And it really doesn't matter. It's still us. But just like the Revolutionary War, I agree. The Brits never backed off. They never conceded defeat. They just said, that's okay. We're still going to own you guys. So whether or not that was a plan in the first place, or they actually had to back off and do it a little bit more subtle, either way, we win in the end.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know which is which, but I agree 100% that they did get it back through bankruptcy, through commerce, and all that. So we are where we are. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say the War of 1812. How many people graduating from school now have ever heard about that or what it was about? The Brits came in and literally raised the capital of this country to the ground because the colonists had the audacity to throw out the first attempt at national bank. And so the Brits just came. I mean, it goes deep. We could talk about it forever as far as what was really behind that. But they just invaded us on our shore, burnt the place down, and then left and said, screw you guys. So just in case at that point we think that we got rid of them forever, that should be a good indication to Americans if they knew their history.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's all about money. It's all about central bank and controlling this stuff called money.
I was going to say, not to mention the real 13th Amendment, which actually makes all these lawyers who are presidents treasonous in a way, right? Because they're with the British Bar Association. Yeah. So think of all of those presidents who are lawyers who made all of these, signed all these laws. If you actually were to go back to the original 13th Amendment, all of that would go away.
Yeah.
Which is just like mind blowing when you think about that.
And of course, we're not
every single
talking
president's
about
a
all
lawyer.
I was just going to say, we're not, of course, talking about all our good friends from Great Britain. We're talking about the folks that usurped the crown in the first place and aren't even British, never were. So, we've all been kind of fooled. So,
and the central bank over there too, like in the city of London, that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and why the Queen Elizabeth would always have to curtsy to the mayor of the city of London is the only person she did have to bow to. So before and this has been a really fun conversation and informative. Right after here, I'm going to join up. I'm really enthused about that. Is there anything else that we haven't covered here? Anything about what you're up to or topics you'd like to get out before we finish up?
No, I mean, we're in the process of trying to come up with white paper on how to take the value. Like I said, we're up to $3 billion right now, and give it back to the people. So, we want to do that. We don't want to sell anything. We want to give it back to the people. That's our goal, is take the wealth from the current system, give it back to the people. It was theirs in the first place. So, and we believe God is on this, and It's foretold in Revelation 18, which is the name of our church. And so that's our moniker, is Revelation 18, and that's the fall of Babylon. And so the instructions are there, what to do. We're doing it. And once we do our part, then those outside the veil will do their part, and we can move on.
Brilliant. Michael, anything more on your end?
No, this has been a great discussion, and I'm really excited to do the process myself, as I claim what my true authority is over the land and the sea and the air and the heavens above. And I'm really thank you, Cal, for putting in the decade and more work to allow for this to come forward. It's really exciting. I remember Josh Del Sol telling me about this before the Corona nonsense, and man, it's crazy to think it's 2024 now. Of course, yeah, their whole vision is 2030, right? That's why they're in such a rush here for that reset, which in their mind is sort of what the China model is, and people opting into their corporate slavery through the digital apparatus of the virtual systems and the tie-in with the robotics and AI and all that. And yeah, it's just like, nope, we're going back to nature and understanding what our true power is. And it's really quite effortless when you know who you truly are. And I look forward to keeping you all apprised of my journey through this process. You can follow us on our Telegram, but more importantly, I'll be keeping people up to date in the private on our new private platform at alfavedic.com/join-us. That is our new private community. Cal, if you're interested in joining that, throw you over a free lifetime subscription just to be in there. It's really wonderful, man. People are
love to see you
really,
back there.
yeah. People are really using it, and we cover all avenues of the reality spectrum, from health and wellness to law to history to all the fun stuff in between. People posting, fun, wholesome movies and comedy and stuff that fits within our culture. So really, that's how we take it back, right? It's, we do the process, but then we create what is in alignment with the natural law, with the universal law of consciousness and God and all that good stuff. So, and being in peace.
Yes.
So, It's,
Cal, thanks again for being with us and all that you do. And Mike, I've got your back. I will be over in your neighborhood whenever you need me, and I will be strapped. So have no worries.
You may need to be one of my witnesses. I know my dad is going to be.
You may need to be one of his witnesses, Mike.
Yeah.
So much for going in peace, right?
Love you guys. Hey,
right.
Thanks again for joining us. InPowerMovement.org/Alfa Vedic. Go join today. Be a part of the wave. Let's make the change that we all know in our hearts is already happened.
Yep.
And remember to get outside, get your feet in the dirt, go plant something, go for a hike, show Mother Nature some love. She'll show it right back. We are in control. We are the divine creators. And as soon as spring comes, we'll be flourishing again, bearing that on the farm. Lots of fun stuff to bring you guys from the farm.
My new Schisandra berries, by the way, that I planted last year, I was a little bit worried about them making it through the next season. They're all budding and coming up. So we'll have some good stuff to make in the lab for this next year. Sorry to interrupt. Finish up, Mike.
Nope, that was exactly what I was getting at. And can't wait to educate y'all on the spagyrics that Bear's been doing, and those products will be coming out to our private membership only. We're excited about that, and really going more, as Cal, as you already are, and what we've been doing. We do commerce in the public as an actual full brick and mortar e-commerce site, but we also have our private side. So unique in that way that we're doing, we have a pretty sizable operation now, all off grid, that's in the public. And then we also have the private side. And it's a wonderful model based on permaculture and sort of natural law, on natural law. And we hope to inspire others to follow in that same path. So You can find out more about that at alfavedic.com. We love you all. We'll see you next week. And remember to go support Cal and everything they're doing. Thanks. Cheers.